Alright folks, let's dive straight into it, because Celtic's transfer window has been a bit of a slow burner, but there's one new face we've all got our eyes on. 19-year-old central defender jamai Simpson has just arrived on a season-long loan from Manchester City, and while we haven't seen him pull on the green and white yet, his debut could come as early as this Friday. It's an intriguing signing, especially given Celtic's solid track record in recent years when bringing in young talent from City's academy. The boys already picked up a decent reputation in Manchester, and people close to the club are convinced he's ready for this next step. Now, this isn't just any academy kid coming north. Simpson Puzzy, or JSP as he's known both at City and in his own Instagram bio, has been with the Premier League champions since he was about 8 years old. He's risen right through the ranks from youth tournaments to captaining age group, sides, and even made the leap into Pep Guardiola's first team picture last season. And he didn't just make up the numbers. Injuries to City's senior centre-backs gave him a real run of minutes, including a Champions League appearance against Sporting. When you consider the level of competition at City, that's no small achievement. City watchers who followed him closely describe a player who's calm under pressure, confident in possession, and crucially for both City and Celtic style of play, comfortable stepping out from the back with the ball at his feet. He's been a leader in their under-21 side, regularly carrying the ball into midfield and threading passes through the lines. Last season, he was named Premier League 2 Player of the Season, a recognition that says plenty about his consistency and quality. That award has gone in previous years to players like Curtis Jones, and more often than not, it signals someone who's on the brink of a proper senior breakthrough. The Premier League 2, for those who haven't watched it, is a funny old environment. The technical level is high, particularly in the top academies like City and Chelsea, but the crowds are tiny and the pressure nowhere near what you get in front of a packed Celtic Park. City's youngsters are used to dominating possession and our territory, rarely having to chase shadows. That's great for building on the ball skills, but it leaves a gap to bridge when a player steps into senior football where the tempo's faster, the strikers are nastier, and aerial duels are about brains. As much as brawn, Simpson Puzzy has already had a taste of that reality. Last season, City's defensive injury crisis opened the door for him. With senior names like John Stones and Manuel Akanji out, he was thrown in alongside an improvised backline, sometimes next to Josko Gvardio, playing out of his natural role with fullbacks like Rico Lewis filling in on the wrong side. It wasn't exactly a smooth, settled unit, and City as a whole was struggling through a tricky patch. Yet even in that chaos, he held his own. Against Sporting, he was up against Victor Gyökeres, a powerful forward full of confidence, and apart from one error leading to the opener, he won his aerial duels, matched him physically, and generally looked composed for someone so new to the stage. He also started in the Premier League against Brighton, came off the bench in a cup against Spurs, and featured in pre-season friendlies, including one against Celtic in the States. Those who saw him in those matches talk about a player who blends physical presence with a willingness to play high up the pitch, who can use either foot under pressure, and who looks for progressive passes rather than taking a safe option back to the keeper. That courage in possession is something Brendan Rodgers will value highly, especially in a team that will dominate most domestic games and rely on centre-backs to help unlock stubborn defenses. On the stat side, his numbers in Premier League 2 last season were outstanding. He and fellow centre-back Max Alena topped the charts for progressive carries and passes, showing just how much of City's build-up went through them. His tackling success rate sat at around 75%, and his aerial duels were won at over 85%. Granted, the opposition isn't at Champions League level, but it shows he's been dominant in his age group. He's not lightning fast like Kyle Walker, but he's got enough pace to recover in behind and enough strength to stand his ground. The move to Celtic looks like a perfect fit on paper. He'll be coming into a side expected to win week in, week out, compete in Europe, and play front foot football with high possession. He'll have Cameron Carter-Vickers alongside him, one of the most reliable defenders in the league, and the chance to develop in a more stable backline than the one he stepped into at City. Rodgers will likely start him rather than keep him as a rotation piece, and with his ability to play on either side of the central pairing, he gives Celtic tactical flexibility. There's always the question of how a young player adapts mentally. Those who know him say he's not overly cocky. He's more the type to grow into a role rather than swagger in from day one. That means Rodgers might have to manage his integration, carefully giving him space to build confidence. The danger with any loan is that a few early mistakes can snowball if the player's self-belief wavers, but everything about his track record suggests he's got the resilience to handle it. From City's perspective, this is part of a bigger plan. They've got a wave of young centre-backs pushing for future first-team spots, and with Stones Akanji and Nathan Ake all potentially moving on in the next year or two, there's a clear path. For someone like Simpson, if he impresses, a standout season at Celtic, especially if he shows he can cope with Champions League football, could put him right in that conversation. Then again, if the fit in Glasgow is just right, there's always the chance he falls in love with the club and decides to make it permanent. For now, though, the focus is on what he can bring to Celtic this season. Strength in a challenge, composure under pressure, a willingness to pass forward, and a habit of stepping out from the back with intent. Add that to his experience in one of the best academies in world football, and you can see why there's excitement building. If all goes well, Friday night might be the first glimpse of a player who could become a key part of the defense, not just for a season, but perhaps if we're lucky for longer. Right, so let's keep the story rolling, because the more you dig into this move, the more it starts to feel like one of those signings that can define a season. Celtic fans have been crying out for another strong center half to slot in alongside CCV, and now here's a lad who's been bred in one of the most demanding football schools on the planet. That combination of physical readiness and technical sharpness isn't something you stumble upon every day in a 19-year-old. And while there will be a bedding period, the signs are there that he's got the temperament to make that step. It's worth remembering he's coming from an environment where winning isn't just encouraged, it's expected. At Manchester City, from the under-18s upwards, the standards are sky high. Every pass in training is judged, every mistake is analyzed. And the culture pushes players to be comfortable with the ball in tight spaces and to make decisions under pressure. For someone like Simpson, that's second nature by now. He's used to playing out from the back, even with an aggressive press on top of him, scanning for that forward pass rather than the sideways safety net. That's exactly what Rodgers' system will demand here, so in terms of style, he's already halfway through the adaptation before he's even kicked the ball in anger for us. The jump he's making, though, isn't just about tactics, it's about atmosphere. Premier League 2. Matches might test your touch and vision, but they're not going to prepare you for 50-odd thousand roaring at Celtic Park under the lights. That's where the mental side comes in. He's shown in those Champions League and Premier League outings that he doesn't get fazed but doing it in a green and white shirt week after week with the expectation to win every single domestic game is another beast entirely. If he thrives in that, we'll know he's the real deal. From what's been said by those close to City, his defensive reading of the game is already mature for his age. He's not just a last-ditch tackler, he positions himself to cut off danger before it develops. You'll often see him stepping forward to intercept, turning a defensive action into the first pass of an attack. That's something City's coaches drill constantly, and it's a habit that should mesh beautifully with Celtic's high possession front foot style. Of course there will be moments where he'll have to adjust. Scottish football can be a bit more direct, a bit more physical in certain games, but that's part of the learning curve, and if anything, it'll only round out his game. Physically, he's solid. Tall, well-balanced, and with enough pace to cover space in behind, he's not going to be left for dead by many strikers in this league. That said, he's not a pure speed merchant like a Kyle Walker. Instead, his strength is in his timing, both in challenges and in reading the bounce of the ball. That's one of the reasons he has such a high aerial duel win rate at youth level. At Celtic, that's going to be tested against some of the more traditional target men we see in the league. And if he maintains those numbers here, we'll know he's transitioned well. There's another dimension to this signing that shouldn't be overlooked the European stage. Celtic are pushing to get through that final Champions League qualifier. And if we make it into the league phase, the idea of Simpson going toe-to-toe with the kind of elite forwards he'd face there is mouth-watering. There's even the faint possibility, depending on the draw, that he could line up against his parent club just as Patrick Roberts did a few years back. Moments like that can shape a young player's career, and for the fans it would be something special. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. First, it's about settling in domestically. That means learning the rhythm of the games here, where one week you're up against a deeply inside at home, and the next you're away on a tight, bumpy pitch with a team looking to lump balls into the box all afternoon. For a ball-playing center half, that's an important adaptation, knowing when to play, when to clear, and how to mix the two without losing confidence. If he strikes out balance early, he'll be hard to dislodge from the starting 11. City's thinking with his loan is pretty clear. They want him somewhere he'll be challenged physically and mentally, but also somewhere he'll be trusted with real responsibility. Celtic ticks those boxes. They don't send players out just to sit on the bench if they've agreed to this. It's because they believe he'll play regularly, and for Simpson Puzzy, this is a shop window of sorts. Do well here, and he's got two strong paths: fight for a place back at City or secure a permanent move to a big club where he's already proven himself. The Hunger Games analogy for City's young defenders isn't far off. Behind the established names, there's a pack of promising centre-backs. Vardiol already in the senior squad, the likes of Jadel Katongo, Callum Doyle, and others out on loan. Each one's hoping their spell away will put them at the front of the queue. For Simpson Puzzy, this Celtic move might just be the best stage any of them have. Domestic titles, cup finals, Europe. It's the kind of all-round exposure that can't be replicated in most loan destinations. The flip side, of course, is that the spotlight cuts both ways. When you're at Celtic, every mistake is magnified. A slip in concentration against a stubborn opponent can be the difference between 3 points and dropped ones, and the post-match chatter will let you know about it. This is where Rodgers' man management comes in. If he gives the lad the right balance of support and challenge, he could come out the other side sharper, more confident, and ready for any stage. One of the most encouraging things about him is that he's not limited to one side of the defense. While he might have played more on the right at City, he's comfortable on the left, which is a real asset in modern football. It means Celtic can adjust the pairing depending on form opposition or even in-game tactical shifts. On the left, he'll still favor his right foot for longer diagonals, but his touch and composure mean he won't be trapped or predictable when pressed. The word from those who've worked with him is that his character is as important as his skill set. He's serious about improvement, takes feedback on board, and isn't the type to coast on talent alone. That's the kind of mentality that thrives. Here, where the badge on the shirt comes with demands that go beyond just your ability on the ball. You have to buy into the fight, the history, and the expectation. So what does success look like for him this season? It's not just clean sheets and solid stats, though those will help. It's about becoming part of the spine of the team, the player his teammates trust to handle the big moments. It's about learning from CTV, pushing himself in training, and taking those lessons into the cauldron of Celtic Park. And if he can sprinkle in a few moments of real class, those line splitting, passes, those controlled runs out from the back, he'll leave a mark on this side that lasts beyond his loan. The truth is, we've seen these kinds of loans go both ways. Some players arrive shine and head back to their parent club as stars in waiting. Others fall in love with the city, the fans, and the stage and find a permanent home here. For now, it's about the next game, the next challenge, and the chance to see if Jamai Simpson Puzzy can take all that potential and turn it into something that helps Celtic chase silverware on every front. If his debut comes this Friday, it won't just be another new signing getting a run out. It'll be the start of a season where every touch, tackle, and pass will be under the microscope. And if he's as good as the signs suggest, we might be looking at one of the key stories of the campaign. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic. FC fans, the chatter around Glasgow's East End has been growing louder by the day, with whispers that Brendan Rodgers could be approaching the end of his second stint as Celtic manager. Supporters who once welcomed his return with open arms after Angel. Post-Echoglow's departure are now murmuring doubts in the stands of Celtic Park. Recent performances, while not disastrous on paper, have lacked the fluidity and ruthless edge that fans have come to expect from the boys. In a city where the stakes are always high and where football is more religion than sport, such dips in momentum are often enough to ignite talk of change. The rumor mill, fueled by pub conversations, online forums, and the occasional well-placed source, suggests that the Celtic board might already be quietly considering their options. It's the kind of speculation that spreads quickly. In Scotland, where every nod and wink from a club insider is treated like gospel, and where the boundary between fact and fancy blurs in the smoke of a matchday pint. Whether this is genuine boardroom plotting or just the latest round of terrace gossip, the buzz has caught the attention of more than a few seasoned journalists across the country. The suggestion that Rodgers could be on his way out is not without our context. His first spell at Celtic ended in a sudden, almost theatrical departure for Leicester City, leaving some supporters feeling abandoned. This second tenure began with high hopes, but the honeymoon period appears to be waning. Although domestic dominance remains within reach, the club's performances in Europe have been less than inspiring. And in Glasgow, that's often the real measure of progress. The Champions League nights have lacked the spark and tactical sharpness that fans crave, and questions are quietly being raised about whether Rodgers' ideas have lost their edge in a league he once conquered with ease. Some insiders whisper that the board had already set targets not just for silverware, but for a certain style of play, and that those expectations may not be fully met this season. There's talk that a short list of potential successors, ranging from ambitious young coaches to experienced campaigners, has already been drawn up, ready to be activated should results dip further. The possibility that the club might move sooner rather than later adds a sense of urgency to every fixture, with each match day feeling like it could tip the balance either way. Of course, in Scottish football, rumors like this can take on a life of their own. The mere suggestion of managerial change can ripple through the squad, the press, and the terraces, affecting mood and momentum. Some players, it is said, have been quietly wondering about their own futures should a new boss arrive with a different tactical philosophy. Others might see it as an opportunity for a fresh start. The tension has been palpable, with the manager's post-match interviews closely dissected for any hint of strain or defensiveness. Rodgers himself, an articulate and composed figure, has brushed aside speculation, insisting his focus is on the next game and the next 3 points. Yet in the background, murmurs persist that certain members of the board are concerned about long-term planning and squad evolution. These concerns are amplified by the ever-competitive nature of the Scottish Premiership, where a single bad run of results can flip the narrative from triumph to crisis. And in the case of Celtic, with Rangers breathing down their necks, the pressure is magnified tenfold, leaving little room for missteps. The financial aspect cannot be ignored in this unfolding tale. A managerial change at a club the size of Celtic is never a simple matter of sacking and replacing. Contracts, compensation, and the potential cost of attracting a top-tier replacement all weigh heavily on decision makers. There are also commercial considerations, season ticket renewals, merchandise sales, and sponsorships, all of which can be influenced by the perceived direction of the club. Some in the business community surrounding Celtic Park suggest that any dip in fan morale could have a knock-on effect financially, making the timing of such a decision crucial. At the same time, there is a belief among a section of the support that failing to act decisively could prove more costly in the long run, particularly if it results in losing the league title or missing out on Champions League qualification. This balance between short-term stability and long-term ambition is at the heart of the board's reported deliberations. In Scotland's footballing fishbowl, these financial realities are often discussed as passionately as tactics, with fans understanding that every decision, on or off the pitch, has its price. In the coming weeks, Celtic's fixtures may serve as an unspoken referendum on Rodgers' future. Every pass, every substitution, every result will be magnified under the lens of speculation, with the media ready to pounce on any slip or sign of discord. If the team can string together a convincing run of victories, this storm might blow over as quickly as it appeared, leaving the rumors as nothing more than a curious footnote in the season's story. However, should the boys falter, the pressure could become unbearable, forcing the board to act sooner rather than later. In Glasgow, football loyalties are fierce, but patience can be fleeting, and history shows that no manager, no matter how decorated, is immune from the unforgiving expectations of the job. For now, Rodgers remains in the dugout, the green and white scarf around his neck, and the chants of the faithful still ringing in his ears. But the whispers in the pubs, the talk on the terraces, and the murmurs in the press box suggest that his future may depend on what happens in the next handful of matches. Only time will tell if this is a passing rumor or the start of a seismic shift at Celtic Park. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.